Hey, can you guys hear me? Hopefully this thing is actually broadcasting. We'll get started here in just a second. Let's see here. All right. So thanks everybody for joining. Hope you guys all had a great weekend and a good start to your week on Monday. I know I had a little bit of a crazy Monday to get started here, but all things considered, I'm here now, so I'm pretty happy to see you guys. All right. And of course, my AC's kicking on right as we are trying to get started. Awesome. All right, so let me kill the AC real quick because, I'm sure you guys don't want to be listening to that hum in the background the entire time. But as I said, thanks so much for joining. Today we are going to be talking about the Sisters of Eve and the Mordu Legion. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never actually played EO, so everything that I'm pronouncing or all of my pronunciations are just based off of what I'm seeing. So hopefully that's right. Somebody tell me if I'm an idiot. I'm sure it won't be the only time today. I am right now actually struggling a little bit to get into the test server. I'm not sure. I've been trying for the last hour, and for some reason it is not pulling up. But what we're going to do today, we're still going to talk about those ships. I'm going to give you guys some lessons learned and kind of go through the fittings, talk about some of the tactics that we're going to be using for these specific ships. And then hopefully, eventually, I'm going to just keep trying on my phone to see if I can get in. And hopefully by the time we finish up, I'll be able to still jump in, show you guys some stuff on the test server. And if not, then we will just keep talking here, and then I'll put out some videos probably later next week once I do eventually get up and running, because NetEase, right? I don't know what's going on. All right, guys. So what I want to do first off is talk about a little bit of the kind of the backstory, I guess, if you will, for some of these. And it's really interesting because there's not a ton of lore right now about these two factions that's Eve Echoes specific. I know if you guys played Eve Online, there is a ton of stuff about these ships. But for those of us, and for those of us who are new to the Eve game in the tablet world, I think that they're just really cool kind of factions to read about. And as I was doing some research for this in particular, I really enjoyed the kind of the backstory, and particularly with the Sisters of Eve. I think that if you guys didn't see the announcement from NetEase, that is all about or not all about, but is about the solo expeditions or solo exploration with some of the Sisters of Eve ships, I think is going to be a ton of fun. I'm really excited about it. I was already pretty pumped about the Astro. And so I'm just even more so for that one. Now, with that being said, I do want to jump in here and talk about the Astro first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the gameplay here. And I'm going to just go in here real quick to the ship tree so that you guys can kind of talk through a little bit of, not that one, of the bonuses, and then we'll talk about some of the fittings. I actually thought it was kind of funny how how the game recommends you fit this ship. And so I'm going to talk about how I fit it and how I did it differently on the test server. Again, hopefully at some point I'll be able to get in and do this on my phone so that you guys can still see that. But either way, should be a good time. So let's get started here, right? So starting here with the Sisters of Eve ship, we do have the Astro. Now, this is the frigate, obviously, but like all of the Sisters of Eve ships, this one does have the minus 100% lock delay and minus 50% cloaking device reactivation. What that means is that as soon as you drop that cloak, you can start locking, you can start shooting, which personally I think is pretty awesome. Now, we do also get a +5 cargo hold capacity, as well as a number of bonuses for scan resolution and the resonance simulator minimum scan, and for both the radius and then for the simulator, the narrow simulator, so PvP, and then also the PvE. Now, as far as combat, this one does give a little bit of a bonus, which I think is actually interesting because it gets more of a bonus for the drones than the other cruiser, or than the cruiser variant, the Strateros. But it does get that really nice armor bonus, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute because I think that's going to be really, really important as you are doing this for the PvP in particular. Now, in terms of the overall way that this frigate is going to operate, I will say that it's a little underwhelming in terms of DPS. If we actually go and, again, if I was on the test server, I could show you the build that I had for this. I did put missiles on this thing as well as the drones. I was only able to get up to around 300 DPS. I know that sounds a little weird to be saying only for a frigate, but when you compare that again with some of the faction, or the other factions like the Daredevil and the Dramiel, not to mention even just the T10 interceptors that are getting like 600 DPS when you activate all the mods, it does feel a little underwhelming. But I'm actually not opposed to that. And the reason is because I don't think that this ship is meant to be your end-all be-all from a combat perspective. And really, I think what's going to happen is, and I'm just going to go in here to the frigates, and we're going to go down and go ahead and pull this up so that you guys can kind of see what the game recommends. But I think this ship is going to be great as a scout and as a tackle because, let's be honest here, you've got a zero lock delay cloaking ship that can get within whatever your optimal range is going to be and immediately apply warp disruptors or warp scramblers to it. Now, as we start looking at this, I think that's kind of what the game actually kind of has in mind here. And it's interesting because if you look at this fitting, you can tell that this fitting was made before they released scanning because this ship doesn't have a scanner, which I personally think is just absolutely hilarious. So if you look at the way that they've built this ship, they do have the Gallows small launcher. I put C-types on there. And then you do have the interruptive. I put Caldari Navy for the warp disruptors, and then I did put a Explorer PvP scanner on here. Now for the low slots, they put a dealer small micro warp drive, a small armor repair, and then the cloaking devices themselves. I did something very similar. I basically just put all C-types on there, but again, I kind of went with that. And then they did warp core optimizers, which I think was a bit of a miss. I actually ended up putting the thruster or the aux thrusters on here to get a little bit extra speed. I did keep the polycarb on here, but I did the 2 optimizers and then 1 polycarb. For the combat rigs, which again, I think this is just pretty standard from a damage perspective. The only thing that I did is I actually swapped one of these out for an anti-explosive armor rig, because I want to make this frigate a little bit more tanky, because again, I'm not looking at this as a end-all be-all frigate for damage. I'm actually looking at it again as a tackle and as a fleet support ship. So with that being said, what I want to do real quick, and I'm going to just try this. You guys tell me if this is a terrible idea or if you kind of like what I'm doing here. But we're going to go into my favorite tool, which is a whiteboard. And we're going to talk about kind of some of the tactics that I think are going to be coming up with this ship. Now, if we're looking at the way that this is going to work, let's say that you're out on a roam. Let's say that you're out with a couple of other ships, probably some larger ships, maybe a battleship or 2, maybe some assault battle cruisers, something like that. And your job is going to be the frigate to go in and tackle things. So what we're going to do is, let's say that we've got an anomaly here and we've got a couple of rats that are, here. We've got our gate that you guys are going to be coming in. And then we've got a red battleship, right? And this is my terrible battleship thing, but you guys kind of get the picture, hopefully. So the way that you're going to be operating with this ship is you're going to basically jump in and you're going to basically be here, right? And let's just make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So what's going to happen is you're going to jump in, you're going to be on this gate, you're going to be scanning, and your scan resolution is going to be fantastic. You don't need to put any rigs on here because you get the ship bonuses, but if you were to, if you've equipped it similar to kind of to how I did the covert ops probe, or how I do my covert ops probe, you're probably going to end up with a scan res around 80, if not lower than that. And so what's going to happen is you're going to scan and you're going to find this this battleship, and so then you warp into this anomaly, right? You're going to be cloaked. You're going to see that this guy is, let's say he's 40 kilometers from the rats, right? This again, I apologize for the horrible chicken scratch. You are then going to find, let's say that he's in line with the sun. You are going to warp out to that sun and then back to whatever optimal range you want. In my case, it was about 25 kilometers. And you're going to warp to, again, at this point, it would be 65 kilometers from the rats so that you can be right at that optimal range right as you warp in. With that, you are going to decloak and immediately be able to point this guy. You're going to throw 4 points on him. Most battleships are going to, especially non-faction battleships, will probably only have one warp core optimizer if they have any. And they are then going to only have 3 points of stabilization. Because of that, you are then going to be able to immediately lock them down. You can start applying drones, you can do whatever. And at 25 kilometers, most battleships are not going to be able to hit you. Now, depending on what type of battleship you're going to be fighting, you may be able to actually get a little bit closer and just, you know, really make sure that you're applying your drones and all of that. But I think to be safe, you're going to want to stay a little bit further away. Now, with that being said, again, as soon as you have that target locked in, the rest of your fleet jumps in, everybody warps to you, and boom, that guy's dead. Congrats, you just got your first kill mail with an Astro. So I think that's going to be one of the big plays for this particular ship. We don't know exactly how this is going to function with solo exploring, but I think that's also going to be a fantastic way to do it, because as you look at the bonuses and just the cargo capacity and all that, you can go out on some pretty far-reaching roams and be able to kind of see where a lot of this stuff is going to be. I don't want to say where it's going to be because that sounds kind of stupid, but you're going to be able to find a lot of sites. You're going to be able to pull a lot of cargo and hold it, get back, and then again, be able to really kind of take advantage of some of those bonuses that the ship has to offer. So I'm going to pause there for a minute. First off, I want to just answer a couple of questions in the comments. So go ahead. As we're going, feel free to drop them in. I'm going to pause after each ship and kind of talk about these a little bit, and answer any of your questions and kind of brainstorm a little bit. So you guys just kind of tell me what you want to do, if this is working, if it's not. If this is not helpful, I also prepped a couple of ships so we can jump over into the real server, and we can actually try to do kind of a manual piloting quick crash course as well. I know that was another one, if you guys are on Discord, that got a lot of votes. So we'll kind of take it as we see it and play with it a little bit both ways. But that's kind of the Astro. That's the first view that I've got. So let's take a couple of questions that are in the chat for just a second there. So Jonathan, survival rigs, then for tank, then it is all tackle with drones to harass. Yes, absolutely. Now, I do think that this is going to be primarily a speed tank, because even with being able to get the Astro, and I'm just going to pull up the stats one more time so that you guys can see it. Even with the Astro having the extra resistances and everything like that, you are still just a frigate. And so, unfortunately, you know, as much as I would love to say you could probably sit there and face tank, I don't think you're going to be able to. This is a pretty fragile ship still, so I think you are going to need that speed. That additional resistance is going to help you when you do get hit, and that's why I put the repairer on there, because I want to be able to kind of take a little bit more damage and heal myself as I'm going through it. Jake and Aura Warp Core has 4 stabs or 4 points when activated. Yes, it definitely does. Because of that, I don't think that this is going to be great for hunting miners. I think you can do it, and I think a lot of people now are not carrying as many stabs. But if a miner is paying attention and they even have 1 stab on, they're going to get away just because of also their natural stabilization. So just be aware of that. I don't think it's going to be the end all be all, but again, because most battleships only carry one of those warp core stabilizers, I think you may be okay. Would a stealth bomber not do the same function for much cheaper? Yes, Chris, it would in some cases. The problem that I have with stealth bombers is that most of the time they don't have the speed and they don't have the bonuses that you need to really be able to take full advantage of the type of use case here. And the other thing is that they're not going to get the scanning bonuses. So while the stealth bomber is a great ship and it's going to give you a lot of the options that you probably want, I think this ship is going to be a little bit more versatile, and I think it is going to give you a little bit more survivability because of those natural resistances. I've been on a number of roams with stealth bombers where they get popped with one shot, and they're just a little too fragile if you're really trying to hunt a little bit bigger targets or faction ships or something like that. How well would the Astro do against interceptors? I don't think that the Astro will do very well against interceptors, to be honest. It doesn't have the speed that you really need, and because it doesn't have the bonuses to small drone speed or just to drone speed in general, I think it's going to struggle. It's not a very tanky ship already. It's just I don't think it's going to do that well, especially against the T10 interceptors. It probably can handle the T8 ones, but I probably would more run and hide than try to take on an interceptor, if I'm being honest. It would perform Keen +2. I'm not sure I'm understanding quite what you mean by that. Zildjian? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry. +2. I'm guessing that you're saying +2 stabilization. But yeah, so that's kind of that is true. I think, especially if you're putting two of these on. All right. So I'm gonna kind of pause here for just a second. I'm gonna switch over and talk about the other frigate that we have tonight, but you guys let me know in the comments. Is this helpful? I'm sorry that we don't have quite as much actual ship in space combat because again, yay netties. But if we can, I'm still trying to log in here and see if I can get lucky. But is this helpful, or you guys want to switch over? Just let me know, and after we do this one, we can certainly kind of make a decision or game time change here. All right, so the next ship up that we've got, the Garmer. Again, hopefully I'm saying that right. But this one, I think this is going to be a fun one for anyone who hates interceptors. And the big reason for that is going to be the bonus down here that is the 10% Warp Scrambler optimal range. Now, if you've got the best Warp Scrambler that's in the game right now, you're going to not only have 5 points of Warp Scramble or Warp Disruption because of the roll bonus here, but you're also going to have a range of almost 20 kilometers. Now, because of that, you're going to be even further than the interceptor range, and so you're going to be able to kite, and I think this ship is going to function very similar to the way that the Daredevil actually operates. Now, I don't think it's going to be quite as effective in most cases as the Daredevil, because I think the Daredevil's ability to use webs and not rely on shutting off a micro warp drive will end up being a decisive factor if these two ships, for example, were to go head-to-head. But that being said, pretty much every interceptor runs a micro warp drive because of the bonuses and the speed. Some of them are obviously dual propped, which could give you some issues, but this ship to me feels like it was built to kill interceptors. Now, with that being said, I did go ahead and I put small torpedoes, or just torpedoes, on here in general. And when I did that, I was able to get up. I got up to, I think hot, it was about 550 DPS using those torpedoes. If you look here, the bonuses that you get, to explosion velocity, as well as the actual damage themselves, means that these are going to be applying more damage while also giving you more damage to apply. I don't know if I said that right. If that makes any sense, but either way, the way that this ship is built, you can either try to go in and basically, if you're hunting frigates, for example, try to kill those frigates fairly quickly. I think with the torpedoes, I was able to get up to about 12 kilometers of range, thanks to the extra torpedo velocity, and then I actually also added a rig on to increase that velocity even further. If you think about it, the way the math kind of works out is that if you have a torpedo that has 12% bonus because of a rig and then 200% on top of that, you're basically getting an additional, I'm trying to do my math here, remember off the top of my head, so I apologize if this isn't exactly correct, but you're basically getting about 24% of the torpedo speed because of that bonus, or torpedo velocity because of that bonus. So because of that, you're getting more range. You're able to kite a little bit more. And again, if you're fighting interceptors, the torpedoes themselves are super fun to actually use. Now, that being said, if you want to use this as a tackle, I did put C-type small missiles on here as well. And with that build hot, I ended up getting, I think, around to 475 DPS. So it's still pretty respectable, but it was a fun ship to play around with and fly. Now, I'm going to go ahead and flip over here again to the recommended fittings so that we can all have a good laugh at what is recommended. Not for the Atron, because that's not what I was trying to do. All right. Let's go to the Garmer. All right. And take a quick hydration break. All right. So with this one, again, you can see that the the build, I think, was made before they actually had warp scrams in the game, because they have two interruptive disruptors on here. What I did on this, again, I put C-type small torpedoes or C-type small missiles, depending on if I was trying to play against an interceptor or if I was thinking I was going to be more of a long-range tackle. With those small missiles, again, I'd have to go back and look exactly, but I think I ended up with a range of almost 27 kilometers. So it's got a good bit of range with that, again, that 20-kilometer warp scrambler. What I did on this one is I did go ahead and put one Federation Navy scrambler with a Caldari Navy warp disruptor. And then I put a scanner on here because, again, if I'm thinking about how I want to be fighting, I'm most likely going to be scanning targets down and then warping to them and trying to be a little bit more decisive in the way that I'm handling this. Now, for the low slots, this is where my build actually deviates quite a bit from the one that is in here. I actually put a dealer micro warp drive, a smuggler afterburner, and then a ballistic control unit. The reason for that is that, again, I'm not going to be getting in and trying to tangle with ships mano a mano, if you will. I'm going to be more trying to kite them, use that excessive range on the missiles to be able to actually go in and really kind of shoot them out and shoot them out. That sounds really bad. To shoot them from far out. And then, again, if there is range or a speed tank, if you will, I'm trying to do that both with the micro warp drive and the afterburner, just in case I get into a sticky situation. I can get out, and because I have the longer range on the scram than pretty much than any other ship other than another Mordu Legion, I'm going to be able to actually get out of there and hopefully survive and either warp off or do whatever I need to do. For the rigs, I did not use the warp core optimizers. I did use the aux thrusters. With that, I was able to get this ship up to about, I think it was around 700 meters per second without anything active. With the micro warp drive active, that did get up to just under 4,000 kilometers per second. And then, like I said, I did use the bay loading accelerator, but I swapped one of those out for an extra velocity rig, because again, it just gave me that little bit of extra range, and I was able to really take full advantage of some of the other bonuses that were put into this. All right, so with that, again, I'm going to hop over to my trusty whiteboard, and let's talk about how this ship is going to be looking when you actually are fighting. Now, if we have our enemy ship here in the middle, what's going to happen is I'm going to be jumping in, and if I've just got my little frigate here that's larger than my target ship, don't worry about it. What I'm going to be looking to do is have about a I'm going to say an 18-kilometer orbit. And the reason that I want that 18-kilometer orbit is that as the ship that I'm targeting moves, if they are able to break out of that 20-kilometer danger zone, I guess, they're going to be able to warp off. They're probably going to be able to get away. Now, for some of these, I may be able to keep them pointed with that Caldari Navy warp disruptor, and that's going to actually go all the way up to that's actually going to go all the way out to 27 kilometers, I believe. And so I do have a little bit of play there, but as soon as that other ship gets outside of the range for my warp scrambler, they are going to be able to activate their micro warp drive, and if they know what they're doing, if they're slingshotting, or if they're trying to do some other kind of maneuver to get away, they may be able to get away from me very, very quickly. Even though I am a frigate, I'm moving at almost 4,000 meters per second. Turning around, while it's not a huge issue, will still be a bit of a problem. Now, with that being said, the other thing to consider here is that most enemies are going to be able to hit you up to... Actually, let me just erase this for a second. Most enemies are going to be able to hit you up to about 14 kilometers. And that's kind of my magic number, because with the micro warp drives, and then if they have a predator web or anything like that, they are going to have a little bit extra range. If they web you, or if they are able to get a scram on you, you're probably going to die. Sorry, it's just kind of the nature of a speed tank, right? Now, that's why I am going to be going ahead and fitting an extra prop mod with that afterburner. Because again, I like to have just a little bit more survivability rather than extra damage or extra tank, because the thing that's going to be keeping me alive is not going to be my ability to get reps or have an extender or something like that. It might keep me alive for a very short amount of time, but if I can't get outside of the webs, or if I can't get back to where I can use my micro warp drive, I'm probably going to die no matter what. So if we're just kind of summarizing this up, we basically have a orbit of about 14 kilometers that we don't want to go inside. We want to have a orbit of about 18 kilometers that's kind of our sweet spot, where we're able to apply a lot of damage, keep a lot of disruption on, and keep them without using their micro warp drive. And then we have kind of our fallback last option that's all the way back here. That's going to be our warp disruptor only with that Caldari Navy. So really, if we're really looking at this, this is kind of our sweet spot here in this 14 to 18 kilometer range. Again, that's going to be just the way that I'm going to fly it. That's very similar to how I fly my Daredevil, but we'll kind of see how the meta shakes out as we're working on some of this. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back and check the chat. Appreciate you guys. I'm glad that you guys are able to hang out and just chat and enjoy with me. This is, like I said, this is fun for me. It's actually a much needed break after the workday. So glad to have you guys here. All right. Sorry, I think I just blasted y'all's eardrums. Okay, so the next ship that I can talk about here, and you guys tell me if you want to keep going, or again if you want to flip into some of the other stuff. If I don't see any in chat, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep rolling here. But the next one that I want to talk about is this Stratios or Strateros, or however you pronounce it. Let me just pull it up. And this one I was pretty excited about, and I think it's going to be a really unique ship. So if we go back to the bonuses here again, this is a Sisters of Eve ship, so we've got that no cloaking device lock and the 50% reactivation delay. Again, we do get 5% hold capacity. Woohoo! I can use my faction ship as a hauler. My scan resolution and bonuses are all there as well. But then really interestingly, this ship actually gets 5% less DPS per level than the Astro and than the Frigate, which I thought was kind of funny. But when I actually started using it, it was pretty apparent why. This ship, without the way that I fit it, I did end up getting about 650 DPS cold, I believe is what it was. With a drone range, I think like I said, I think that it ended up being around 50 kilometers. It's a much beefier ship than I was actually expecting it to be. So this one I think is going to be a lot of fun, and it's one that, as we start looking at some of the interesting nuances of the way that this ship can play, I think that it's going to be really cool to kind of see how people get creative with this one. And I think one of you guys in the one of the comments earlier was, it'd be great to see a fleet of 50 of these just dropping in and just mauling people, just absolutely mauling them. And I kind of agree. I think this one's going to be a fun ambush ship. I think it's going to be great on gate camps. It's got the speed. It's fast enough as a cruiser that you're going to be able to do some really fun things. But it is just going to be, I think, a little bit less offensive. And more defensive again, especially with some of the armor resist bonuses. I kind of think about this as like a covert ops prophecy, because the way that I built this ship, and again, I'm going to flip over here to the recommended fittings, and again, I'm going to check the stupid test server, and it's still not up. So if I go to the recommended fittings on this one, fitting management, let's go to cruiser. Scroll all the way down. Okay, so they put the Challenger medium missiles on here. I actually I put both torpedoes and rapids on here because I was just in a torpedo mood, I guess. But the Challenger missiles, I put the C-types on. I think those are the best solution because you do get a little bit extra velocity, explosion velocity. So you're going to be able to just have a little bit more flexibility to fight some of these frigates. And again, in particular, those interceptors. I don't know what NetEase is going to do to balance those. That's a whole nother discussion that we could have another time. But it is a bit OP at this point. Interestingly enough, they are, I think, looking at this ship as a stealth tackle, which I think is fine. I don't really think that it's a terrible choice to sit back and kite. You've got some great range with those drones, even with the medium missile or the medium rapid missiles. I think if you were going to do that, you'd probably put just regular missiles on. But again, if you wanted to, you could. What I did here is I put a scanner, a scrambler, a scanner, a warp disruptor, a warp scrambler, and then I actually put group cap on here. And the reason that I put the group cap on is because when I was testing this out, I was running into some issues where I would have the hardeners on and I would have my my repair on, and I wasn't staying cap stable enough. It ended up being, I think, only like 30 or 40 seconds of stability with everything running. And so I put the group cap on just to give me a little bit extra room to breathe there. Part of that is that I was also actually able to get a large armor repair on here. I think this was the one that I got the large armor repair on. And so that was what was causing some of that. You could probably be a little bit more strategic with how you use that. But ultimately I think that it was more fun to have the oversized mod. But that was how I was able to get that one on. On this one, I think that this one might have been where I put a ancillary power grid on, again, just to fit that oversized mod. I apologize. I wish I could pull it up on the test server right now, but c'est la vie. I did put, again, just an aux thruster. I'm a speed whore. I'm sorry. Not really, but I did put that on there. And I actually used, instead of a micro warp drive, I actually used an afterburner on this one. That was the other big change that I made. And the reason that I made on that one is because between the resistances and the ability to heal and everything else going on, I'm assuming that you're going to be flying in a fleet. This may not necessarily be a solo hunter ship. It might be. I don't know. If you were going to do that, maybe you switch out a Nosferatu instead of the group cap. But I put the afterburner on so that I could get in close and I could brawl a little bit more. Just because, again, I think that's kind of a fun way to fly. And with a ship like this, with the speed, with the missiles, with everything else, if you're going for more range, you may not necessarily need that. But again, that was just kind of the way that I see this ship going. And I think this could be a really fun ambush brawler. So with that, let's take a quick look here. I'm missing something important. There's a bug when you call back your drones. Kiting is not an option if the enemy... Yes, the enemy can target your drones. I agree with you, though, that the big way that I would do this, and the way I fight with my RB Covops too, is to be watching those little bars at the bottom. For those of you who may not know, when the enemy targets your drones, if you have your drones unstacked, they actually do all have their own health bars. Mind you, they're incredibly difficult to see, but you do have them. And if you see them start to take damage, you can actually pull them back very quickly, and you can keep those drones alive basically indefinitely, because as soon as they come back, they get into your drone bay, they'll repair, and then they'll go back out. So again, if you are able to micromanage that, I think it's a great way to do it, but it is just a little bit more intensive. But with that being said, I did throw some extra rigs on here. I think I did, again, fill the hole on the explosive, so that basically across the board, when all the hardeners were active and everything like that, I was getting like 60 to 70% resistances. So this ship it can be very tanky for a cruiser, which, again, it's kind of a prophecy covert ops, which I personally just love. I think it's awesome. In terms of how we're going to be fighting with this one, again, it's going to be very similar. If you're going to be seeing rats here, we've got our Dami here, or our Tempest, or whatever, fill in the blank, Raven battleship. Could be a battle cruiser. I'm sure you could take those too. You're going to warp in here, bounce to a planet. I guess I need to build my planet. Yay, sun. It's important to have good artwork here. Clearly, that makes the stream, right, guys? With that, then you would go in, you'd see how far away this is. Again, let's say 40 kilometers. And then the only difference is when you warp out and warp back, I would be warping here probably pretty close to, again, probably about 10 kilometers, so that I'm within range of my scram, so that I can shut off the enemy micro warp drive. I'm going to be able to get those drones applying damage very quickly, but then also, if I need to, I can probably pull back a little bit and be able to get out of that situation. Now, with that being said, again, the other option here is that you are going to be kiting. And so if we look at that and we talk about the way to address this, and actually I'm going to make this a little bit higher up than I did last time because that just didn't work. So let's say that this is our enemy ship that we're trying to target, and let's say that this is our strat. Actually, why am I blanking on what the cruiser symbol is? It's the little house looking thing, right? Anyway, so if we got our Strateros, then house, whatever. The way that I'm going to be probably fighting with this ship is I'm going to be having like I said, about a 10 kilometer range, especially if I'm going to be fighting like a Tempest or something like that. The signature radius on this ship is not that big, so I may be able to actually speed tank and do some other stuff. But again, if I'm trying to get in close, I'm trying to apply those webs. I'm sorry, not the webs, the scrams, so I can shut off their micro warp drive. This will again kind of give me some of that ability. Now, with that being said, you are going to be in range of any kind of web or scram. Again, that is going to be out to about 14 kilometers. And apologies for the chicken scratch, but that's going to be with outside of 14 kilometers. So you are basically going to be fighting in kind of this little no man's land, if you would. What you can do is you can actually get closer if you would like to, but because I'm going to be flying with an afterburner here, I think that you would be able to get out of this a little bit easier. If they have a scram on if they only have a scram on, you'll be able to warp off immediately. If you don't, again, this is going to be important with how your target selection operates, because you don't want to pick a ship that's going to be faster than you with a micro warp drive, because you're not going to be able to get away. But that being said, if you're fighting like a battleship or something like that, most of those have a max speed with their micro warp drives of only around 1,000 to 1,100 meters per second. So with this ship, you'll be able to be flying a little bit faster than that, even just with an afterburner. You can get out if it really gets to a sticky situation. Your range as well is going to be just over 27 kilometers again. So again, if you do decide that you just want to sit back and kite, you can do that. You won't be applying damage with your missiles, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit safer, and it's probably going to be more effective if you're flying in a fleet, because you're going to be able to keep that target pinned down for longer. Alrighty. So let's take another look at the chat and see what else we got. Let's see here. Add sensor damp to really mess with them. That's actually a really good call. I run that on a VNI that I used to use a lot for PvP, and it was really fun because they can just never actually target your drones. So that's actually a really good call. That would actually finally be a good example of where we might start seeing people run a lot of sensor dampeners. Roberto, one other item here, again, to your point, being the drones being able to catch up. If you're flying medium drones, especially with an afterburner, it shouldn't be a problem. You can also, one thing that I've done in the past is if you watch, you can see when the enemy is targeting you or shooting at you, and it'll show up as like the -0 or whatever when they stop. If you can time that so that you can kind of get a sense of how fast their weapons are firing, you can actually cut your prop mod for just a second when they stop firing, especially if they're using like strike cannons or beam lasers or something like that. You can actually stop long enough, just literally half a second, and then re-engage that prop mod, but your drones will come in. That's one thing that that I have to do with my RB covert ops, because if you don't, then you're absolutely right. You can't change out drones, or your drones will just be damaged, and you won't be able to operate them. So what can you hold 150? I run 35 to 40 minimum on all drone boats. If targeting my drones, you're going to have a bad day. Justin, are you talking about the number of drones that you have total? Because I would agree with you. I probably hold around 20 to 30. I don't know if I go 35 to 40, but that's also just because I'm cheap and I don't like to lose ships with a crap ton of drones in them. And as you guys will probably see in a week or two, I've been experimenting with my RB2 a little bit too much and taking some fights I probably shouldn't have. And when you lose a drone hold that's almost worth more than the ship itself, it stings a little bit. It hurts. But yeah, I mean, if you have that kind of risk tolerance, by all means, I think it would be fantastic to be able to have that many drones on there. All right, so let's move on. And if you guys thought that my pronunciation of the Strateros was bad, just wait till you get to some of these next ones. All right. So we have the Orthrus. I hope that, again, I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, but you know, it's fine. With this one again, this one I did use as a brawling ship. Just to give you guys a quick idea of the tank that's on these things. That one is a shield tank, whereas the Strateros is a armor tank, and the Strateros is a little bit tankier. It does have a little bit more overall health. It's got a little bit more armor, and because of the natural resistances to armor, you actually do end up getting a good bit more EHP. Now, because of that, when I built this, I didn't quite go glass cannon, but I did definitely look at this more as a I'm going to out DPS you rather than an I'm going to out tank you type of strategy. So if we go over here, again, you'll see very similar bonuses to the Garmer, and basically just we're moving up to medium missiles. We do get some extra high slots, which make this thing just an absolute cannon. On this one, when I was using rapid missiles, I think, again, I'd have to look, but I think that I got to like 900 DPS cold. This thing is just, it's just a beast. So when we start looking at this one, one of the other things that I did want to call out on this one in particular that I thought was really interesting is that if you look at the attributes and you see how this guy is a shield tank, the resistances that you get are obviously not great. I mean, just with any shield, right? It's not great. I think you end up getting a little bit more thermal resistance than normal, but you still have that zero EM damage. Now, the reason that I call this out, and the reason that's really interesting, is that when I was playing around with it and I was actually trying to get a sense of how this one worked, I didn't really see that much of a difference in if I filled that hole and I put an anti-EM rig on it. It just didn't do a whole lot for me because of the way I was flying the ship. And again, what I mean by that is that I was taking this with medium rapid missiles and getting almost a 27-kilometer range on those missiles. And so rather than, unlike the Garmer where I was putting a extra velocity rig on, I just kept it with the normal damage rigs and all of that, because when I put an EM rig on here to try to fill this hole, I lost enough DPS that it just didn't really feel like it was worth it. I think it ended up being about 150 DPS lower than when I was using the extra bay loading accelerator. So just something to be thinking of. Again, that's going to be because of the way that I'm flying this. It's going to be very similar to some of the Serpentis faction ships where I'm using their ability to have the long-range scrambler as a way to control the engagement and control the range itself. Now, if we start looking at the recommended fittings, again, you're going to notice that they built this way before they actually had scrams in the game, even though they had the bonuses already. Again, I like the Challenger Rapids. That's a good call. Good job, NetEase. I did put I put a scram and a web on here again. That's going to give you 7 points of disruption. I think that's probably enough. I don't think that you really need a third on there, unless you're like hunting miners or something like that you just want to do that. In which case I would say just go ahead and throw, I mean, why not just throw 3 scrams on there? Have 15 points of disruption, you know, why not? If you're going after a coveter 2 or anything. With that being said, then I also did use the scanner. If I'm flying in a fleet, though, I actually swapped that out. Rather than the interruptive web, I was actually using a neutralizer on here, and I found that that worked really well, because what I was able to do is when I was flying against my slasher on the test server, I put this ship together, and then I put my slasher up, and by using a medium medium neutralizer. Sorry guys, like I said, it's been a long day. By using a medium neutralizer and then having just one warp scram, one warp disruptor, and then the scanner on there, I was actually able to not only pin that ship down because it lost the ability to use the micro warp drive, but then I was also able to kill its cap, and so it couldn't even use like an afterburner or something like that. Because I was using a micro warp drive myself, I was then able to catch up to it pretty easily. And between that, the extra range on the missiles, and the extra explosion velocity, this thing just absolutely ate interceptors for lunch. That was the way that I built it. If you're hunting cruisers or something like that, I would actually potentially look at maybe a target painter, just to make sure that you're maxing out that damage. You know, with the missiles, you're increasing the signature radius, you're being able to really get something on there. But, you know, again, you could also throw any other E-War. I think the big thing is that as long as you've got, you know, a long point that's going to be 27, 28 kilometers, you could even just go ahead and throw the Predator on here, which is 30 kilometers. And then also obviously having the warp scram, which is going to give you, again, around 20 kilometers with that ability to cut off a micro warp drive. Now, with the low slots, I did go ahead and use the micro warp drive. I swapped out, instead of using a booster and an adaptive. I still love the fact that they throw a booster and an extender on these builds. I don't know. Maybe you want to be able to PvE and PvP with the same fit. I don't know. But with all of that being said, what I did is I did put a booster on even for PvP. Again, the reason for that is that I'm going to be at enough of a range that I'm going to be able to kite around, and if somebody's hitting me, I'll be able to just kind of continuously repair. But I'm counting on the fact that I'm going to have more speed, and I'm going to be able to handle this better than they will. The other really interesting thing is that with using rapid mediums, I was able to actually take on a Dami and take care of those drones. I think that it took, I want to say that I put 50 Valkyries in the hold, and I was just literally shooting them. And I think that it wasn't able to kill me until I got into the 20s in terms of drones lost. So again, hopefully I'll be able to put that video out in just a little bit. But that was kind of a fun experiment to try. With that, again, I did use the booster, I used the adaptive, and then I actually put a ballistic control in here. I was toying around with putting a guidance computer on here, because again, I'm weird like that, but I thought that it may help negate some of the penalty that you get for the 15 or the minus 50% flight time. It did work pretty well. It did give me that extra range, but again, I don't know if it was really quite worth it. I would rather have the extra damage, because I already get the speed bonus, 200% speed bonus. So I think that ended up being a little bit better decision. In terms of engineering rigs, again, I didn't use a warp core. I actually didn't use a polycarb either. What I did is I put a targeting rig on here, and then 2 aux thrusters. In terms of the combat rigs, I did use a califaction catalyst and then 2 bay loading accelerators. Both of those were T3. And then finally, you've got a drone, which, pick your poison. I usually go for Valkyries just because they're fast. So that's kind of how this one works. Like I said, I think if we were to diagram this one out, again, you guys are probably going to be kind of sick of my writing after this. But if you were to be looking at this, again, we kind of have a similar idea where we have around 20 kilometers. I'm probably going to be, rather than 20 kilometers, I'm going to actually be doing this at 18. That's going to allow me to have those medium missiles fully applying damage while still also being just kind of at the edge of that range to where hopefully I can stay out of the enemy's disruptor range, which is again going to be at that 14 kilometers. 14 kilometers is just kind of the magic number for kiting if that's your style. Just know, stay outside of that, or you're probably going to have a bad time if that's what you're trying to do to tank and stay alive. And then again, just because I do have the extra the extra disruptor, you can be going all the way up to 27 kilometers. But again, it's pretty straightforward. So I know that's kind of a boring diagram, but hopefully the next one with the Nestor is going to be a little bit more fun because I think I've got a little bit of a unique spin on this one. But let me, again, just before we jump in here, let's see. Yeah, no real questions on that one. Justin, I agree. I think if somebody's able to go through 35 drones, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something really wrong. I think you've just got to be able to understand kind of how that dynamic's playing out and be able to go from there. All right, hydration break. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got plenty of time. All right, you guys. I'm really sorry. I had multiple ships. I had like a Tempest. I had 3 Tempest I was ready to blow up to let you guys see this next one. It was going to be fun. I'm really upset here, but netties. I swear I literally spent like I think I spent 4 hours yesterday building out everything on the test server, getting all of the ships ready, like practicing how I was going to show you guys all this stuff. And then literally an hour ago, just nothing. So lesson learned. Next time I'll just film everything. And if it doesn't work, then I'll at least be able to talk you through the footage, but live and learn, right? Live and learn. So, all right. So let's knock out these last 2 here. Sisters of Eve. Now, the Nestor was a super fun ship for me. I'm a drone pilot. As I mentioned, I fly the RB2 Co-ops as kind of my favorite current PvP ship. The Nestor has the Dami's capabilities and a Logi's capabilities all wrapped into one, which make it a super fun ship to fly. You do have to be a little careful with it. And if you guys actually ever watched the video I did about Dami as Logi, that was actually basically in preparation for this ship. I'm super excited about getting this ship. So with that being said, this ship is going to be a really interesting one. I think it's also, out of everything else, every other ship that I've seen so far, I think that you are going to end up with the Nestor as the #1 first called target on any battlefield. And the reason for that is that it can apply such good DPS. I think that just with the base skills, I mean, the 60% drone DPS, 10k range, plus the armor resistances, all of that. I was able to get on the test server, I was able to get, I think it was like 700 DPS cold, and that was with having 4 large armor repairs up top. So you're getting this insane DPS, plus you're getting the ability to heal your allies. And the other thing that's really interesting is that because of the bonus that you get to the to the scanning, you can actually use this ship as a scanner in your ratting fleets. You don't have to have a probe cove ops or something like that. And you can still find those T10 deads that may be spawning. And for me personally, that's just kind of a quality of life update. I like the ability to have that. I did go ahead and play around with it a little bit as well when we were just ratting. or when I was just ratting on the test server, I tried to split what what my highs were. So I would have two repairs and then two like large missiles or something like that, or large cannons. The other one that was really nice was the 100% group armor repair range. That meant that I was able to get almost a 50-kilometer range on those group armor reps. And if you guys have ever been in a fleet where somebody is getting primaried and you've got all the logi on them, but they're still going down, having that extra range on those group reps can be absolutely huge. So I think this is going to be a really great ship. You can have a lot of versatility with it if you are ratting and you're, using like an armor guardian or something like that. Or if you just want to use it as kind of a, oh crap, I can't say what I would really be saying in that instance on YouTube. But if I'm saying that, then, you kind of get where I'm going with this. You can just use it as a kind of a last ditch. Okay, let's save the guy who floated out of the bubble or whatever else it was. Now, in terms of the recommended fittings for this one, let's just go on over. Excuse me. Let's go down to the battleships and to the Nestor. So they were using the Gallows large missile launcher here. Again, like I said, I played around with both putting weapons and repairs on here. I really liked the ability to have some of that extra remote armor reps. But if you're ratting, you probably don't need all of that. With that being said, when I did do the 2 and 2, I ended up, like I said, around 800 or 900 DPS. I did use large rapids instead of large regular missiles, just because most of the time when I'm in a ratting group, if we do have a bubble or if we do have a guardian, we're going to be sitting probably within 20 to 30 kilometers of the rats. And so I didn't need the extra range on those large missiles. I did put a scanner on here with the group reps. I actually did 2 group reps, and then I also did a web, just again to be able to get some of those faster ships that are coming into the bubble or into wherever I'm at. On this one, I actually did some fun stuff. One of the builds that I really liked was I did two armor hardeners, and then I actually did 2 large repairers, and I used the rigs that were the repair bonus and repair activation time. And the reason that I did that is that when I actually did the math, I was able to heal longer and faster with those bonuses on than with the plates on. And I ended up with almost 350 EHP, or 350,000 EHP. So it was a hugely tanky ship. I think that it would be, like I said, I think you're going to end up getting targeted first, or in a lot of cases, very soon, as soon as people realize that you're on the field. I think this could be a great bait ship because you do get a lot of those natural resistances. You're just going to be very, very difficult to take down. With the drones as well, again, you can, I used the drone speed and then those 2 other rigs. I was still getting 600 or 700 DPS cold. If you went with more of the traditional use of these drone rigs, I was getting closer to 900 or 1,000 cold, again, without any high slots. You put the high slots on there, you were ending up with 12 to 1,300 cold, I think is what it ended up being. Now, I did go ahead, I did put a warp core optimizer on this one because as a battleship, like I said, I think you are going to get targeted. I don't think it's going to save you if you have a swarm of interceptors on. Let's just be perfectly clear about that. If you have 60 interceptors all swarming you, having a warp core optimizer is not going to help. Sorry to burst your bubble there. I did use the polycarb engine housing because it helps with warp time. This ship, I think it took like 15 seconds without any rigs on, so that at least got that down to around 8 or 9 seconds with everything else and skills and all that stuff. And then I also did go ahead and put a CCC rig on here. If you're going to be doing more PvP with this, I would say put a semiconductor on instead. So that's the Nestor. Now, I think that, again, like I said, this one is going to be really interesting because there's 2 fun strategies that I'd love to see here. And I think that if we're looking at this, and I'm gonna just put a gate here. I mentioned that this could be a really fun bait ship, and what I mean by that is that if you're working with any ship and you have 350,000 EHP, it's going to take somebody a while to get you down, no matter what, unless you've got the next ship we're going to talk about, and I'll get there in a minute. But this is just that's insane. So let's say that you've got your battleship, and again, forgive my horrible chicken scratch, but you're just sitting on a gate, and you have people coming in and out, and then suddenly somebody starts to engage you, right? So they're starting to swarm you, whatever. If you are able to survive for like 10 minutes, right? How well do you think this swarm is going to be able to take you down? And again, I'm not talking about a fleet of 60. I'm talking about a fleet of 5 to 10, kind of the small gang rooms. I think that you would be able to just sit on a gate, let them come to you, and they're going to say, "Ooh, Nestor, that's a Logi ship." And they're going to be able to start taking you down and trying to get you. But again, if you're using large rapids, or even if you put medium rapids on here, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to have large rapids. If you're worried about interceptors or something like that, you could put medium rapids on. It's not going to matter. And you could have a lot of fun just baiting people in, kind of like the Captain Benzie videos that he did with the Logi cane, and being able to take people down that way. Now, with this ship being as tanky as it is, if somebody were to engage you, your options are to try to either, start taking them out, or you can probably try to get back to that gate, because again, you've got like 10 minutes. You'll be fine, right? The other really interesting thing with this type of engagement, you can, because this ship has just an absolutely insane power grid. I think if I go back here for just a minute, I think the power grid was like 11,000 or something. Or no, okay, so maybe this one was a little bit less. 8,100. You can fit whatever you want on this thing, especially if you're, if you're putting like a large newt or anything like that. You can kit this thing out to be the ultimate bait ship, and I am here for it. I just want you to know I support your life choices if that's what you decide to do, because it would be so much fun to see some videos with that. So if you guys do get any of those, please let me know. I'd love to see it. But I think that would be a really fun way to use this ship. Again, it's just because of those natural resistances, because of your ability to heal and get some of those reps back. I think you could really do a lot with kind of playing in this dog catches the car type of engagement, to use a reference from The Dark Knight. It would just be a lot of fun. I think you would have a lot of fun with that type of fight. It is high risk, but it's fine. It's why we have a terrible insurance program. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I did. My bad. All right. So the other way, obviously, like I said, you do have the benefits of the reps. If we go in here just one more time, the 50% remote armor repair efficiency means that you're getting an additional bonus to the amount of armor that you're repairing. And then the optimal range, obviously, that's going to be how far away we can be. With most of these optimals, and I apologize because I need to go back and look exactly. I want to say that they were around like 50 kilometers or 60 kilometers already. Let's see here. Nope, I am clearly thinking of something else. So, and this is why I stick my foot in my mouth, and you guys get to laugh about what an idiot I am. So this, if the optimal is 12 kilometers, we're then getting the ability to be out to 24 kilometers, obviously. With that also comes the ability to be a little bit further back. I wouldn't want to get too much past that, just because if you are going to be the Logi and you're out of range, this is a battleship. It's going to be very slow. You're not going to be able to really get to the rest of the fleet if you fall behind. So it is going to be a little bit more challenging, but even just that little extra bit, I think, again, could be really useful here. But yeah, that's really the Nestor. I think that as we play around, I think people are going to get really creative with this ship. It's a fun ship to fly. I really enjoyed it on the test server. I'm really hoping that I get to fly it more as we're looking at some of these other in-game use cases, I guess. I don't know what the right word for that is, but engagement styles or something. Either way, like I said, it was a lot of fun, and I'm really hoping that I get to get one of these babies soon, but probably not too soon because I'm really space poor, and I spend too much of my money on stupid fits for my RB and other things. So, yeah, maybe I'll start a GoFundMe. Maybe that's what I'll do. Scipio's GoFundMe for a Nestor. All right. Any questions on that? Any questions on the Nestor? If not, I'm going to move to the last one that I cannot pronounce. And y'all, again, are going to get one heck of a kick out of how incredibly stupid I sound. I'll go ahead and pull this up. Well, if you guys have any questions or thoughts on that, or really any of these, I mean, let's be honest. It's not like this is a formal class. We're just kind of spitballing here, right? All right. So, like I said, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this one. I think it's the Barghest. Barghest. I don't really know. If somebody knows, give me a phonetic pronunciation in the chat. But either way, with this one, we do have again a lot of the same bonuses. We have the large missile and torpedo damage. Interestingly, again, this one gets 10% damage versus the Orthrus, which only had a 5% bonus. I thought that was really interesting, and just, again, it made this ship absolutely monstrous when it comes to the fit and just the amount of damage this thing is going to be able to put out. Now, with this on the test server, I did try both the torpedoes, the rapid missiles, and the regular large missiles. With the large missiles, I was getting consistently about 1,200 DPS at 130 kilometers. I mean, it was a siege ship, but if you're going to be using as a siege ship, you might as well just get a Raven Striker. I don't think that this ship is really meant for that type of engagement. I could be wrong, but I think that for the amount that this ship is going to cost, we're probably looking at this being. I'm envisioning it a little bit similar to the Nightmare for both this one and the Nestor, just in terms of the price and all of that. So you're probably looking at totally fitted out, rigged out, all of that, probably around 15 to 20 billion, at least for the first couple of months while it's released. That might go down, but if for that kind of money, you can buy like 3 Raven Strikers. So probably even 4 Raven Strikers. So if you're trying to go siege or going range or anything like that, I don't know that this is the right ship for that. Just to, again, be totally transparent. What it is a great ship for, though, is going to be a battleship killer. And with the amount of damage that you can put out with 8 high slots, when I put torpedoes on this thing, I was able to get, I think it was 1,800 DPS cold and up to around, I think that it was like 27 or 28 hot. I did have 2 ballistic control units on there, and it just melted things. I literally, what I did is I put it on the test server, and I let it, sounds so stupid, but I put it right outside the station, and I just undocked a Tempest, had them lock each other up, start shooting, and then the Tempest would just die. And then I'd bring another Tempest out, and it would just die. And then I brought another one out, and it would just die. I went through 5 Tempests before I got even halfway through the shields of this thing. I mean, it just, the amount of damage and the amount of shield that you can put on here. It wasn't quite as much as the Nestor, but in terms of EHP, I think that this one was around 300 or 310 EHP. I put a micro warp drive, a hardener, a protector shield extender, actually 2 protector shield extenders, and then 1 ballistic control unit on that particular fit. And like I said, just popping the extenders and then all of that stuff without repairing the shields, I was able to go through 5 Tempests. Again, I know that's not a great example because there's going to be other DPS coming in and other things like that, but I've only got 2 ships on the test server, so sorry. I did plan to spawn a dead and test it here, but just because, again, this didn't really lend itself. This doesn't lend itself well to anything smaller than a cruiser, even with some of the explosion velocity bonuses. It does still struggle against some of those types of ships, and against an interceptor, just forget about it. But you are able to get some pretty good damage on those battle cruisers and battleships. It just melted through those. So with that, let's take a final look at the fittings here. And go in here. All right. So once again, NetEase has very helpfully given us the fit here, and the Gallows large missile launchers. Like I said, with the C types, I got up to about 130 kilometers of range, making this thing just an absolute artillery cannon. But again, for the price, I don't think that this is the right ship to be doing that with. There's probably there is a difference in the amount of damage and DPS that you'll be able to put out with a Raven Striker versus this. But again, if we're talking about having 3 or 4 Raven Strikers as opposed to one of these, I'll let you guys make your own decisions. But I don't think that this is the best ship for that. Instead, what I did, like I said, is I did put torpedoes on this thing. I used it as a brawler. I put the extenders on, extenders, hardeners, BCU. If you wanted to, you could probably throw an extra hardener on there and just get a little bit extra EHP. But I just really like seeing a ship that does almost 3,000 DPS. I just think it's fun. So that's what I did with it. With that, I did go ahead. I did still use a Stasis Webifier. I did use the Warp Scramblers. I did not actually use a Warp Disruptor on this one. And the reason for that is that if anything is outside of Warp Scrambler range, they're probably using a MWD, and they're probably going to get away. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. If you're flying the ship, you're not out solo hunting with it, most likely. You probably could, actually, but I don't know if I'd necessarily want to do that. But you could do that, but I think most of the time it's going to be flying in a fleet. So I'll leave some of the other tackle to the smaller ships, the interceptors that are probably going to be flying with you anyways. I did end up putting a target painter on here. That just helped a little bit, again, with those cruisers and some of those a little bit smaller ships, because we are using large missiles or large torpedoes. Even with the explosion velocity bonus, this ship just struggled a little bit with trying to hit some of those. But with that target painter, I did find that it helped a little bit more. And so just having that, again, I thought was kind of nice. But between that, the warp disruptor, the predator webs that I used, and everything else, I was able to get in, basically pin stuff down. Once I got to within 15 kilometers, it was game over, even if they were a smaller ship, because I was able to still have my micro warp drive on, and the range on the torpedoes was actually up to 31 kilometers. So you were able to get a lot of damage and a lot of range for what you're getting with those warp scramblers. Like I said, for this, I did put the large micro warp drive on. I used one adaptive, 2 of the large protector extenders, and then 1 BCU. But you could, again, go ahead and put another hardener on like they've got here. I actually think this is a decent fit for this one, with the exception of using the warp scrams. I did go ahead and leave a warp core optimizer on here. Looking back, I don't know if I actually would have done that. I think that you probably are going to be better off putting extra speed rigs on here. Again, I don't think you're going to be catching a whole lot if it really comes down to it, but given the fact that you're probably going to be brawling with this ship, you're going to be in range of a lot of other battleships and frigates and things like that. So they are probably going to have multiple points of disruption on here. I keep wanting to say stabilization. It's not what we're doing here, guys. We're trying to kill things. We're not trying to get away. Long day. Anyway, so instead of the warp core, like I said, you could probably throw some aux thruster rigs on there. I think on the test server, I was able to get up to around 250 to 260 meters per second cold. Again, with the micro warp drive on there, it did get that up almost to I think 1200 meters per second. Excuse me. And then finally here, again, kind of your standard, I did use the 2-bay bay loading accelerator and then a warhead califaction catalyst. The difference being that I swapped out the second bay loading accelerator for an EM rig because, again, this is going to be more of a brawly ship in my opinion. So you're going to be able to get in there and really, again, I can't say this on YouTube, but you're going to F some stuff up is what's going to happen here. And again, I wish I could show you guys this on the test server. I'll give it one more try here just to see if we happen to get lucky. But yeah, so that's really that one. I don't know if we really need to do a diagram on this guy because let's be honest, it's going to be a find your target, warp in as close as you can, and just apply as much DPS as you can to just F that guy up. And let's see here. I think that, yeah, we're still getting, it just hangs the entire time. It's been like this for like 30 minutes. But anyway. All right. So what other questions do you guys got? We got plenty of time. I can just hang out. But let me just see here. Looks like you guys are, I'm just doing such a great job of answering all questions about the Sisters of Eve and Mordu region. So, good job, Brandon. You're doing great. No, I'm sure that you guys are going to come up with plenty of stuff and then I'm going to look like an idiot again. But with that being said, I think that's really going to be kind of the crux of a lot of these ships. I think that they've got some really fun tactical capabilities, especially the Sisters of Eve ships. I'm really excited about the Astro personally. I think that's going to be my favorite ship. What about you guys? What is going to be your favorite ship out of the 6 that we've talked about today? What are you guys most excited to get into, or what are you going to try to get into first? Like I said, I'm going to be going with the Astro. I've got my alt that's currently in destroyers. He's training up some frigate skills right now. Yes, I did say he's in destroyers, but it's okay. I'm in denial, but it's okay. But you guys tell me, what are you guys going to be getting into? As we're looking at some of this stuff. I think the Astro for me is number 1. I'm actually really excited about the Orthrus, or however you pronounced it. I think that's probably going to be the one that I get into on my main. I'm training skills right now for the missiles, and I think that that's going to be another great one to use. So, let's see. I don't know if my chat's broken or if you guys are just quiet. I'm hoping it's not broken because I probably missed something if it is, but either way. Well, yeah, so that's really all that I kind of wanted to talk about today. Again, I'm going to be having some more content, some more videos demonstrating some of what I've talked about here today. I really wish that I could have gotten onto the test server, but again, I need to stop scheduling these things. I think NetEase hears me and they say, "Oh, let's take the test server down now." This would be a great time. So I think if we can do this next time, what we'll do based off of the last poll that I did on Discord. If you guys aren't in there already, be sure to join the Killmark Collectors Discord. I'm going to be putting out a couple of other polls and things like that to kind of see what kind of content you guys want to see, because as much as I would love to just keep talking and kind of spitballing and figuring stuff out, I know I'm going to get in a rut if I do that. And I want to keep this fresh and interactive. So be sure to jump in there. I'm going to be putting up some more polls and things like that, so that we can keep kind of working together and figuring out what's going to be the most sense. Hey, David, I appreciate you being here, man, and good for you for getting outside. I need to hit the gym myself today. It hadn't happened yet. But yeah, guys, so this has been fun. You know, like I said, be sure to jump into Discord. I'll put a link in the video here. You know, and we can kind of keep going through stuff. But really do appreciate it. David, I saw you said you missed the Sisters of Eve. Was there a specific ship that you want? I can pull it back up real quick, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I know that the chat is probably a little bit delayed just looking at where the stream is on mine, but let me know. Just put it in the chat real quick, and I'll jump back over to that one. And if anybody else wants to see another ship or anything like that, I'll walk you through the stats, and we can hit that real fast. Other than that, the only other thing that I do want to touch on, and you guys may or may not have seen the Concord Pass that just came out. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I'm now T10 on my main. I don't know if I'm going to actually get this. I'll be kind of curious to hear what you guys think. The skill points are great. I haven't done the math on this quite yet, but you know, for me and kind of looking at what the Concord Pass was, I just don't know if there's enough value in this. I'm probably just going to be doing the free one, at least on most of my accounts. There is one. I do have one character that I may try to do because I need to look at the. Actually, I haven't looked at the Concord store. Let me look real quick. Let's see what they put out here. The Frig. All right, the Astro. Yeah, we'll go back into that one in just a sec. So it looks like most of the Storm Cores are the same. So I'm probably not going to be doing this again. At least not paying for it. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm probably not going to be paying for this. I'll be curious. You guys let me know if this is something that you guys are going to end up buying, or if you're kind of like me, where, you know, after the last one especially, I'll go through and kind of see how far I get, and if I get close to the end, I might purchase it depending on how many points I'm looking at. But I've already hit T10 on one of my accounts. I've got two others that are, you know, not that far off. So I don't know. We'll see. You guys let me know. All right, David. Let's go in here and let's talk about the Astro one more time. Let's see here. So we got the Astro. So just to recap real quick, again, the big thing that I'm really excited about on this one is going to be the ability to use this ship as a tactical tackler, with the ability that it has, or with the bonus that it has for that 100% lock delay reduction. You're going to be able to really look at that and kind of use it to your advantage to position yourself so that as soon as you decloak, you'll be able to be in range. You're not going to have to worry about too much in terms of getting out and getting in. You can really position yourself well and immediately jump into starting to tackle somebody, or starting to work with your fleet. In terms of the DPS and the EHP and all of that, that's great. I was able to get up to around 300 DPS on this, with this being a little bit tankier ship. Again, because I'm looking at this not as a full-on damage dealer and just like a solo hunter killer, if you will. I think it's got room for that, but I don't think that's quite what I'm going to be using it for. I wasn't as concerned with the drone DPS. Now, with that being said, and I'll very quickly here just go back to my handy dandy trusty whiteboard. So basically the use case that we're talking about here is we have a couple of rats that are going to be up here. We're going to have our gate here that we're jumping into, and then we're going to have our enemy ship here. And then I'm going to have my sun back here because, again, it's happy and sunshine. Yay! So what's going to happen is you are going... Oops, sorry. So what's going to happen is that you are going to jump in. You are going to scan because you have that lower scan res, or not scan res, that lower scan source radius or whatever it is. you are going to be able to do that. You're probably not going to be alerting your target to your intentions of destruction and chaos. You will then warp to the rats or to the anomaly. Because you are able to cloak, they will not know that you are there. You can then look and basically say, oh, this guy's in line with the sun. All right, cool. I'm going to be able to warp to the sun and then warp back to him at whatever range I want to be. So let's say that I want to be using that long warp disruption. I can go ahead and use that to my advantage and warp right to like 25 kilometers. I can go ahead and immediately point him because I can decloak and point. And then I've got that natural resistances. I've got that natural tank, as well as what I did is I put a repair on there. So I'm basically getting both a hardener and a repair because of the bonuses that the ship gets. And then from there, I'll be able to hopefully kind of speed tank and kite a little bit to stay in the point disruption range while the rest of my fleet, which is here, jumps in and then warps to me and is able to actually kill this guy. The other nice thing with this is that even if this this other cruiser or battleship or anything like that is not actually in, let's say that they're not actually in line with something. Let's say that they're actually up here. So you have to get a little bit closer instead of being, right in line or able to do anything. You can actually still warp in and then, warp back. Actually, yes, that's not accurate. Warp in here, and then you'd be able to slow boat your way up, especially if you're fighting like a battleship or something like that. Because you're cloaked, you will have a little bit more ability to do that, and then they won't see you, and you can actually jump in directly to the, I guess for lack of a better term, you can just slow boat, you can uncloak, and then immediately lock them up because you have that bonus. So does that answer your question? Let me know if not, and we can keep going. But other than that, I think this has been good, guys. We've been going for about an hour and a half. If there's any other questions, not related to these ships specifically, just in general, like I said, I'll be very curious to see what people think about the Concord Pass and whether or not you think it's worth it. I personally am probably not going to pay for it and just get some of the free bonuses. You still have a lot of great stuff that you can get, but I'm not going to be quite as energetic, especially because I still don't think that the cores are really worth it for a lot of the types of ships that I fly personally. Just my 2 cents. We'll see. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if there are no other questions, I am going to go ahead and call it for the night. I know a couple of you guys are probably up kind of late, so I appreciate you sticking with me. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, I wish that I'd been able to jump onto the Fulmination test server, but I'm just going to be putting some of this stuff together into videos. Hopefully we'll be able to release some of those pretty soon here. But either way, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will put a link in this description, or I'll figure out a way to put a link in the description if it's not there already, to the Discord. So if you want to be involved in the next selection, I think what we'll probably end up doing is we'll end up doing a like a manual flying kind of 101 course for you guys. And then from there, I'll be able to take that, probably put it into a kind of a little bit longer video or something like that, but we'll do it all live. So if you guys have questions or want to see specific things, be sure to jump on Discord. You'll be able to see when that's going to be. And then also, again, in the future, we'll be able to do some other polls and stuff like that to make sure that you guys are getting the kind of content that you really want to see. But with all that being said, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it, guys. I am looking forward to August and the release of these ships. I really, really, really hope that they are actually released in August, because there's nothing on the Trello about them, but we've heard multiple times that they are coming in August. So fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed. But I'm really excited. We've got a lot of great content coming up with the first anniversary and all of the events that NetEase has planned. They've told us some stuff in the content creator group that I'm not allowed to share yet, but just trust me, it's going to be really awesome, and I'm really excited about it. So I can't wait to expand on some of that and show you some of what's going on. We've got the arena coming up. I'm really pumped for this, guys. I'm hoping that they don't release it while I'm on vacation out of the country, because I don't want to really work then. But you know, that's kind of the plight of it. They released a bunch of stuff when I was on my honeymoon, and now they're probably going to release stuff while we're on vacation, before everybody gets back into the swing of things at the end of the summer. But it is what it is. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you so much again for joining today. I had a blast. We're going to be doing more of these. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to just ping me on Discord or on any of the comments section or anything like that. But have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. And until next time, fly safe.